Marijuana use and involvement in the new security clearance questionnaire for all of you that want to be government employees. In a few months, the online version of the personnel vetting questionnaire, the PVQ, should go live for use by everyone who needs and is sponsored for a clearance to do work on behalf of the federal government. By clearance, I mean eligibility under standards for basic federal employment, sustainability, or fitness. Homeland Security Presidential Directive 12, credentialing public trust positions and sensitive national security positions, the PVQ, replaces the standard forms SF 85, 85P, 85P-S, and 86, which people applying for these types of positions are required to complete. The final version of the PVQ was approved in November of 2023 and has 4 parts, A, B, C, and D. All applicants will have to complete Part A, depending on the type of position eligibility required. Some applicants, you will also have to complete other parts of the form. Only Part A has drug questions. Each section of Part A has threshold questions. If an applicant answers yes to a threshold question, they need to follow up and answer questions called branching questions. Some branching questions have their own follow-up questions as Part A can be downloaded here on our website. But I'm just going to kind of go into this. Section 13, use of other involvement with marijuana. Section 13 has 4 threshold questions which appear in the italics below, and here we go. 1, to provide detailed information about all marijuana use during the past 5 years. 2, whether your use of marijuana in the last 90 days occurred while in a position of trust, and if so, the specifics about the use while in such positions. 3, whether you intend to use marijuana in the future if you're selected for employment in a position of trust or while occupying any position working for or on behalf of the federal government. 4, why you intend to use or not use marijuana in the future while occupying a position of trust or any position working for or on behalf of the federal government. In there, it also says, have you ever used marijuana or a cannabis derivative while in a national security position? Answer no. If this occurred within the past 90 days and you listed above, you have to check yes. And then they also say, have you ever used marijuana or a cannabis derivative while employed in a criminal justice or public safety position? And then while employed does not necessarily mean your use was on the clock or on duty. Answer no if this has occurred in the past 90 days. And you listed above. Emphasis are added. If you answer yes to either of the threshold questions above, you are asked to provide dates for the first and last use, frequency of use, and circumstances of use while in a position of trust, regardless of how long ago it occurred. And in the past 5 years, if you have been involved in the illegal manufacture, cultivation, trafficking, production, transfer, shipping, receiving, or sale of marijuana or a cannabis derivative, if you answer yes to any of these threshold questions, you are asked for dates of first and last involvement, regardless of how long ago the first involvement occurred, frequency of the involvement, circumstances of the involvement, whether the involvement occurred while in a position of trust, and if so, the specifics about the involvement of which such positions, and whether you intend to engage in this type of conduct in the future while occupying a position of trust, and while you intend or don't intend to engage in this type of function while in the future while occupying a position of trust or working on behalf of the federal government. And this article goes on and on and on, but it seems like they're updating some policies, and this may be good for some of these federal employees. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this update to their online form.
What's their purpose in doing this? Yes, that's my first question.
I would guess. I would guess. If I was to take an educated guess on this, Dale, I'm going to say that this is since they have recently said that they're not going to be screening in regards with cannabis for these different federal positions, that now this is what the online form is going to look like when you would go and apply for that. And so this is their way of adapting to people using cannabis.
Well, I get that, but the questions they're asking have to do with concepts of moral turpitude because you are using illegal substances.
Yeah.
That makes you untrustworthy, okay? And to tie smoking weed into that, it's a bit of a stretch, okay, to say the least, that it makes somebody untrustworthy, or that you use cannabis in a position of trust, okay? So that means you're now untrustworthy if you've done this in the past. And then there's the Fifth Amendment problems I have with this. Oh, if you're involved in illegal cannabis activity, please spell out the date, time, who you're there with, you know, what.
And hold on,
That's bull.
hold on, Dale. If cannabis causes if cannabis causes short-term memory loss, how do they expect these people to remember all the way back then?
There's another one of those assumptions. Yeah, I just think
I recall.
lipstick on
Aren't these federal employees unionized? Can't they figure that out for us?
Oh
I
man,
don't think the union's trying to promote people smoking weed and working for the government. That's another part of the problem here.
It reminds me of when we were in desperate need of like trilingual translators in our military intelligence apparatuses, and we still had like this don't ask, don't tell situation with gay members in the armed services, and like we were having, you know, homosexual intelligence officers who were incredibly bright and talented, not able to continue to serve their country, but for the choices they make romantically outside of the work that they were doing. And so this is one of those other things where, like, you know, we don't want to have policies that push talented people out of government service. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes on in working for the government, and the last thing we want to do is take our talented pool of potential continued government staff members and make it harder for them because of their choices that are state legal. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. That's not good. And even if this is revised questions, it's not where we need to get. It's not enlightened questions, and it's certainly not fair or equitable questions. Sorry to use that term, Jason, but it's not fair. It's not fair. If you haven't broken a state law and there's this contradiction between state and federal, let's figure out a way that doesn't allow for talent to leave the federal government.
Exactly.
We need to abolish the federal government. We don't need the federal government.
Yeah.
What we need to do is abolish
Tony.
the federal government. We need to abolish the CIA. What we need to do is allow the sheriffs and the marshals to retake the position they once had before the fraudulent intel agencies existed because of a cross-dressing man who decided one day that he wanted to be a top cop. It's all fake. The 9/11, 93 bombing, FBI.
That took a turn.
I mean, we can continue to keep. We can continue to keep going with it. All I'm saying is, I heard
No.
the FBI needs to be shut down. For conspiracy theorists. This is
And on that
At
note,
least for cross-dressing, he didn't even pick the right dress. Hemlines were going up that year, not down. He used
You guys
silk organza.
stayed
He
long
should have had
enough.
like a little satin.